The following episode may contain explicit language and spoilers. Listener discretion is advised.
So hello and welcome to What's Your Fandom? This is the little podcast where myself and my good friend Stewart journey through the fandoms of film, TV, games, books and comics, flying our geek flags and chatting our way through the multiverses, all of them. My name is Mike. Say hello, Stu.
Hello.
Oh, you didn't say hello, Stu. I'm so disappointed, but it's fine. We're going to move on. And in today's episode, we are attempting our very first Flash cast or flash cast, depending on how you say it and where you're from. And the idea is that we give you a really quick episode, an instant reaction, a hot take, if you will, and about our chosen subject. And this subject for this episode is, of course, the James Gunn announcement about the DCU situation and where we're going moving forward with the DC universe, cinematic universe. So, Stewart, shall we flash?
We shall.
Just to be clear, let's audibly flash for our dear listeners. So, James Gunn has done his announcement, and it was... I personally am quite excited. And I didn't know whether I would be, because the state of the DC cinematic universe recently has been, well, it's been a state. Let's be honest, it's just been a bit of a state. So should we just sort of take each aspect of what he announced and discuss it individually?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one I've got on my list then is Superman Legacy. This is obviously the movie which is going to be James Gunn's take on Superman without Henry Cavill. What do we know about Superman Legacy?
Not a lot. I do know that we know he's still writing the script for it. And that he is, he's sort of like actively enjoying it and he's just doing it. We don't know anything about casting. We don't know anything about setting. I have heard rumors that he wanted to have more time with Kal-El on Krypton, but I'd sort of take that one as hearsay. I wouldn't really... There's nothing solid for that, essentially. But yeah, as things stand, he's just said that he's halfway through writing it.
I feel like there's quite a lot of anticipation for this, though. With the sort of, from the audience's perspective, situation where Henry Cavill came back at the end of Black Adam and then has not been hired now to be Superman moving forward. And that distinction is quite important, actually. They've now got stipulated that Henry Cavill wasn't sacked as Superman. He just wasn't hired to continue being Superman.
Right.
And there is a sort of, it's grey, isn't it? It's not black and white. He just wasn't picked up to continue with that role. It's just really frustrating because from my perspective, personally, I thought Henry Cavill was great as Superman. And I felt like I wanted to see more.
Yeah. I'll try not to rant like too much about Cavill, and the way he's sort of been treated with the role, but he first picked up that role back in like 2013, and when you consider that like he didn't get like a proper sequel, they went straight in with Batman v Superman, and they were just pushing for Justice League. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that he didn't get his own trilogy.
Yeah, I just feel like he needed his own stance, his own take, because it did, you're right, they did push towards bringing them all together, and it didn't allow his Superman to be his own hero, just him.
Yeah. Because I think Superman should really be, he's strong enough to be able to like hold his own sword. We've seen that with Christopher Reeves. So quite strange that he only really got one shot, and it was an order as well.
Yeah.
Weird one.
It is. I mean, all we have here about Superman Legacy is that Superman Legacy will follow Kal-El as he reconciles his extraterrestrial origins with his human family and upbringing. That's the sentence I have. So, I think there'll be a lot of hype around this. I think it'll be really interesting to see who he chooses to be Superman, and if the kind of rumors are true that he's going to be younger again. And that is quite interesting to me. But like, and also, so this is what I don't understand. So extraterrestrial origins, I do get that,
Mm.
but spending more time on Krypton, when he was sent away when he was a baby.
Yes.
So I don't understand how that would fit in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I say it could have just been fan speculation.
Mm,
But yeah,
mm,
the purpose of his origin is that he got sent to Earth as a baby. So if they alter that, yeah, I question what they would do.
yeah. Because to be fair, all the Krypton involvement in Man of Steel I found really interesting.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to see more of that, but at the same time, obviously we couldn't because the nature of it is that it's ending.
Yes.
And it's the beginning of Superman, so they kind of go hand in hand. But are you excited for it?
I am, yeah. I think my sort of feelings at the moment is that, like initially, yes, I was upset what they did with Henry Cavill. Um, I really feel like Warner Brothers kind of like did him wrong a little bit. Um, in the way they didn't set him up to be like the lead hero, in the way that fans wanted. But I am quite a forgiving person, and I'm willing to give James Gunn a shot and stuff with this new Superman film and see what they do. Um, I think it might be a bit of an eye roll if we see his origin story again, but if they put a fresh take on it, I don't mind.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm on the fence here. I don't want to see another origin story. I think I'm quite adamant that I feel like we've seen that enough. It's so in the public consciousness, and this is I don't know whether this is necessarily about bringing a new audience to Superman because with the streaming services these days, the audience out there will have seen all the Supermans that already exist anyway. Even like the youngsters can go and just watch whatever they want whenever they want.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure whether another origin is what we need
no,
because what they did with the Batman, it wasn't an origin. It was already established, and I
yeah,
think that was a more sensible way to go. But who knows? I mean, okay, I guess I have to be open to it. But initial gut feeling, I don't want another origin story for Superman.
no.
And this idea, legacy, Superman legacy, that word's important.
Yeah, this leads me to think. I wonder if they'll do it in a way where it won't be an origin movie as such, but they may show glimpses of his origins in flashbacks. Um, I'm hoping for a more kind of established Superman, maybe like a Superman that's been a Superman for like a good few years, and that he's a renowned hero, in Metropolis.
Okay,
I'm hoping for more of an experienced kind of Superman. Yeah,
interesting idea. Quite like that. I wonder.
yeah,
I'd like to see sort of a this kind of goes against what Superman is, but almost like a jaded Superman,
mm,
almost like you're right, like a well-established hero. And what's that done to him mentally over the years?
mm,
Because obviously, physically, we know his physical strength, but like mentally and emotionally, where is Superman now? Still being that hero after all this time, and I wonder how that would be quite an interesting story. But who knows? Who
sound.
knows? Let's flash on past to the. I want to talk about the authority. Now, this is something I know absolutely nothing about. Okay, um, the authority here, which is heroes with very high concept superpowers, and it'll be their first appearance into the canon of the DC universe. And he described it as being something to do with them wanting to use their powers and taking it all into their own hands and doing what they feel is right and not really being governed by anything else. Now that to me sounds a bit kind of chaotic, but in an interesting way.
Mm. Yeah, I don't. Like I say, a lot of the projects that he's listed, I'll be honest with you, there are only a handful that I know. But yeah, with the authority, I think it's a case of I think they're supposed to be heroes that just take matters into their own hands, and as you say, they're not really sort of governed or controlled. But I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure they got the same writer they had for The Watchmen, might be the TV show or the film.
Did you watch that?
I didn't watch the TV show. No, I wish I did.
It's worth a watch. If you get a chance, it's worth a watch. I really enjoyed myself.
Hmm. I'll have to take a look at that one, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that sort of tone is what they're going for with the Authority. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think it's the right. This is the thing about DC, and I think this is why I prefer it to Marvel. Yes, I just said it. It has got that other tone that Marvel doesn't have.
Hmm.
You know, it's deeper, it's darker, it's grittier, it's more noir. It's got more meat to the bones, like
Yes.
for me. So this idea of a group of heroes that decide they're going to do what they want because they think that is right. I know that a lot of heroes do that, but then there's also been a lot of heroes that deal with the politics of being on Earth and I'm thinking about Captain America Civil War and stuff like that and the Accords they all divided about and
Yeah.
I think that it'd be quite interesting to see how heroes will be portrayed on screen with power because they have power and using that power kind of whether we like it or not.
Yeah, so it's like I think it's like power but without the morals.
Interesting. I'm already intrigued by this. I'm quite interested about this actually.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have something where I know nothing about it.
Yes.
So it's completely fresh. And I think the DC universe needs some fresh. Oh, are you still there?
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I thought you were going to chuck another word at the end then. I was
No, just
waiting.
fresh. No, no. I stopped at fresh because fresh was enough. Now I've said fresh too many times, and I think
Yes.
feel like we've already gone past its freshness. Okay, I'm going to swiftly flash past then the Authority to something which really, really intrigues me: the Brave and the Bold.
Oh
I
yes.
feel like you're going to have something to say about this, Stu. Something in my bones. My spidey sense is tingling. So all I've got in front of me here is that the Brave and the Bold. It starred Batman and Robin in crossover stories with other DC characters, and also was the title of the three-season Batman animated series, which aired on Cartoon Network from 2008 to 2011. So which this incarnation will introduce its Batman and Robin in this unusual father and son story inspired by Grant Morrison's comic series. So please tell me what's going on.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to say is that although it's called The Brave and the Bold, it is not to be confused with the Cartoon Network show. Because I don't know if you've seen the animation for that. Um, the animation for Brave and the Bold, I think it appeals more to a sort of a younger audience.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, The Brave and the Bold, yeah, it's Morrison's comic books. So this is Batman and Damian Wayne Robin. I'm excited for this. We haven't seen Damian Wayne on screen ever as Robin. Watch the Titans TV show. You know, you've got three Robins there. You've got Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake all on one show. Um,
Really? I've not watched that and I'm intrigued.
right.
But
Well,
let's not digress. We'll just talk about this for a minute.
yeah. So Brave and the Bold. The fact that it's going in with Bruce and Damien, um, it is really appealing. The only I wouldn't say it's an issue, and I'll explain why I don't think it's an issue. They're going to be cast a Batman for the sake of that film,
Yes.
so I'm okay with that, and I think it'd be really interesting the dynamic between Bruce and Damien in live action because knowing what they're like in the comic books and the DC animated movies, there's potential for some really good chemistry there.
Okay. I don't want you to spoil it for me, but I kind of want to know what their relationship is like.
Well, I'd like to say I don't know where the film is going to pick up, where they're going to explain how Damien has come about in the comic books. Bruce doesn't know about Damien until Damien is like 10 years old,
Right.
um, raised by the League of Assassins.
Right.
So he's been trained to be like a ninja
Oh.
assassin from like a young age. So all he knows is how to, he knows how to kill people. Um, his mother is Talia al Ghul, which is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. So Ra's al Ghul is
Right.
his grandfather. He's got Talia al Ghul as his mother. Batman as his dad.
Wow.
There's a lot going on there, right?
Yeah. But it really intrigues me because I do love a Batman film, and I know somebody else who loves a Batman film. Um, and it's a new take, and important to say that this is happening obviously independent of the Batman sequel, the
Yeah.
sequel of the Batman, which is happening. So they're keeping that. How did they describe? Did he describe how they're going to be keeping that separate?
Yeah, so they've made a list of films or projects, I should say, because some of them are animated. Um, so they've said the Batman, Teen Titans Go, which is the Cartoon Network series, and the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
They fall under the bracket of uh, something called Elseworlds, and James Gunn has said that they will clearly be labeled as Elseworlds, and you can kind of think of that as um, you could say it's like an alternate universe, or you could say it's like a sub-universe. But basically, it allows them to make films without messing with the continuity of this new DCU.
And I think that really is something that struck home with me from what he was saying, how this need for continuity, and it's what we've all been saying for so long. It's
Yeah.
and I'm glad he's got that as a focus.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was reading the well, when I was watching the video, it was a quote that he says towards the end, and I just wish that they'd send it. I wish they'd said it like 10 years ago. And he says, "Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us."
Yeah, yeah.
So he's aware of that, and I think that's good. I know they've made a point of saying as well that they don't want to be like recasting actors for characters in the sense that like say if and I'm just pulling projects out of my head here. Say like they got an Aquaman film coming out with Jason Momoa. If ever they did an animated Aquaman film, they would keep Jason Momoa in that. They would get him to use his voice, so they wouldn't use like a different voice actor for the animated one.
I love this idea.
Yeah,
I'm totally on board with this.
yeah. So it's to provide like consistency across the board for like their, I think it's like film, TV, and games. Um, I didn't expect them to throw games into that category, if I'm honest, but I'm glad that they have.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Amazing. Let's flash forward to I know nothing about Swamp Thing. This is another one I just don't know anything about, and they're doing an origin story for him.
Right. Do you know what? Swamp Thing's a little bit hazy for me as well because I never read the books. The books are written by Alan Moore. Um, he's the one that wrote Watchmen
Yeah,
and Killing Joke. So he's a great writer for DC. His the Swamp Thing books have been like highly praised. They're like meant to be like some of the best comic books out there for DC. They did do a TV show. It only got one series and got cancelled. And it was more of a sort of a horror sort of it had more of a kind of a horror take on it, but I don't know enough about the character. Um, I only know bits of it from the video game Injustice 2. He pops up in that, and I know he's very much a sort of like a guardian of like the earth, like the green he calls it. So he believes in protecting like the sort of the natural earth. Um, and that could be from anybody who was trying to harm it.
yeah.
But that's as far as my knowledge goes with Swamp Thing.
I quite like as well though that this idea that maybe so if that's going to be kind of there's a horror element to that we're going to get like a DC horror like thing over here, and then we're going to have a DC cartoon for kids over here, and then a DC cartoon for adults over here, and then a superhero here. I like this. That I like that they're kind of encompassing or quite a few different genres and areas. I like that.
Yeah.
That's important to appeal to a lot of people.
Yes.
And I quite like the idea of watching a kind of a horror DC situation.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by that. I just don't know anything about Swamp Thing, but I like his mentality. So
Yes.
interesting. Okay. Well, we'll flash then. Let's flash again to something which this one actually quite excites me. Okay, I'm gonna put it out there. Supergirl.
Yes.
Supergirl. Is it Woman of Tomorrow? Is that what
That's
it's
right.
called? Now, this is interesting because obviously we haven't seen Supergirl on the big screen since Helen Slater back in the 80s.
Yes.
and that is a bit of a cult classic. I think you either like it or you don't. And we haven't seen it since, other than the TV show, which ran for 6 seasons. Is it 6 seasons? I
I think it
think.
was.
I didn't quite get to the end of Supergirl, I'm not going to lie. I keep meaning to go back and carry on, but it's not really high on my priority. I think it started well and fizzled out. Anyway, that's a chat for another day. So, what do we know about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow?
I think this is going to be a more sort of jaded version of the character because her origin is kind of similar to Superman's, but it does differ. Um, I know, I think they said with Woman of Tomorrow, it is based off a comic book whereby she, although Krypton explodes, there's a section of Krypton that survives that she is still on. Um, she's in the unfortunate position of having to see like her entire home just like wiped out. Um, and like
Fuck.
yeah, and like her whole like her family, her culture, like everything's gone. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of depict that on screen for the character.
Genuinely so interesting because we've never seen like a jaded Supergirl.
No, no,
I can't, and imagine having this jaded. I mean, here's me assuming it's going to then eventually be on Earth
I would
somehow.
hope so. Yeah.
So this jaded Supergirl meeting this heroic Superman who is praised and godlike and has had the joy of growing up with these powers on Earth and being revered as this hero. Very interesting friction potentially.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. I think that yeah, that's exactly right. I think the chemistry between those two characters will be interesting to watch because yeah, she'll have this thing of, being like, oh, you don't know what it was like having to lose everything, but he's actually I know what it's like to lose. So they'll have something in common, but from very different perspectives. And
Yeah.
I think that'll make some great scenes in the film, though.
I'm just gonna say that word again. Fresh.
Yes.
Word of the day, guys. We're gonna be fresh. Right, okay. Let's flash forward to some of the TV shows that we're getting. We're getting Creature Commandos, which to me
Yeah,
sounded a bit like Suicide Squad.
yeah. I think so. This is going to be like the animated series that they're doing.
Yes.
Um, right. Because this was like one of the first things that James Gunn announces in the video. Now, I don't really know much about it. From what I can gather, you can see from like the images, they're very much like sort of superhumans, I think you could say.
Okay.
Um, kind of, and I'm sorry to make this comparison, Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad kind of vibes.
Yes.
I imagine the tone for it would be the way Suicide Squad. I can imagine it being like that. Good chemistry between the characters, all looking completely and absolutely weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are, if they're aliens or if they're mutants, I'm not sure. But
Didn't say whether it was going to be like for children or adults or whether there
no,
is even that distinction.
yeah, I think just looking at it's been animated, um, I would guess the rating for that may be like maybe like a 12 and up kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see. But then again, it could be like adult animation where there's like, the TV show Invincible where it's like violence and gore,
Mm.
but sort of soft animation at the same time. So it might, yeah, be interesting to see what they do with that.
Very interesting. And again, know nothing about it.
Same.
Know a bit more about Waller, which is where
Yes.
we're flashing forward to next, because she's a fantastic actress, is Viola Davis. I have a
Yes.
lot of time for her. Wherever she appears, I'm drawn to her, and I feel like she's played such an interesting part already. And it's really nice that we're getting a little bit of continuity from what we already have
Yes.
moving forward.
Yeah, I'm happy that they keep in Viola Davis. She was great in both the Suicide Squad films. Um, I know a lot of people didn't like that first one with David Ayer directing that. I quite liked it personally. But yeah, seeing her and the way she portrays Amanda Waller, she's bang on. She's just like the way she is in the books and stuff.
She's just, I mean, I don't know her from the books. I just know her from what I've seen, and she just leapt off the screen to me, and I want her to be further developed, and I want to know more about her. And I feel like that it was such an obvious thing to do, but at the same time, not necessarily something anybody would have just decided to actually do. So I'm
Yeah.
really pleased we're getting it.
Yes.
I don't know much about the show. We don't know much about what's going to be happening in it, but I feel like there'll be some darkness.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
That makes me
Yeah.
happy.
Yes.
Plus, I really enjoyed Peacemaker, and we're getting the second series of Peacemaker, aren't we? But this is meant to be set in between.
Oh, it is in
Am I
between, is
right?
it?
Am I
I'm
right?
not sure. I know she does team up with Peacemaker team at some point. Whether we'll get sort of glimpses of her origin, um, will be interesting to see that. Some kind of flashback would be cool.
Yeah, agreed.
But saying that, I never watched the Peacemaker show, so if they did that already, I
You've
didn't
never,
know
you
about
haven't watched Peacemaker?
it. No. Yes. That's the sound.
Wow.
I know.
Okay, okay. I mean, I feel like we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now because we're flashing.
Yes.
So let's flash on. Booster Gold. This is something I know nothing about, but it's got kind of that kind of Flash vibes for me. This guy who comes back from the future to make himself a superhero.
Yeah.
Are we thinking kind of comedy?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So Booster Gold, um, the the most I've seen of Booster Gold, there's the video game DC Universe Online, which is like an online game that's been out for I couldn't even tell you how long, over a decade certainly. But Booster Gold uh, is prominent in that game, and yeah, his his sort of shtick, if you like, is that he's traveled back to like our sort of present day because he wants the sort of the glory of being a superhero and he wants like the sort of the fame of being a superhero. But in actuality, he's a bit of a loser. So he's basically in his time, like yeah, he's not really that popular and he's pretty much nothing. So I think what he's done is he's gone back in time to a time where people, are sort of worshipping superheroes and whatnot. So I think he's just sort of cashing in on that idea.
I mean, it kind of intrigues me.
I didn't think he'd ever get his own film. I don't know why. I didn't think he's a character that could have his own movie.
But you see, in because they've mentioned time travel, I'm instantly absorbed. I love time travel, and that angle intrigues me. And those bits in the Flash, the TV show, were always quite interesting to me.
mm, yeah, yeah. I think like I
As
say, so it's
long
gonna.
as long as it doesn't get overused, because in the Flash it kept on having something else in the future's coming back now to start to kill us again, and it got a bit boring.
Yeah, I don't know if Booster Gold like actively time travels throughout. I think that's just. I
He's just
think
come back and now he's
yeah,
here. Right,
yeah.
okay, okay. And hilarity ensues. Can we just call him Booster? Do we just call him Mr. Gold? I mean, what's going on?
I don't know. I think he does refer to himself as Booster Gold in full.
In
Uh,
full. Wow, okay.
yeah.
Be like very, like Ness. I'd be like, all right, Booster, how's it going? All right. Um, and on that horrendous impression, let's move forward and let's just move on and let's go to lanterns because this is something that the Green Lantern situation, deserves some time, I think, and I'm glad they're giving it some time because the film it really was only okay,
Mm,
and I'm being generous.
yes.
But the thought behind it really intrigues me, and I'm surprised they haven't invested much in it up until now, really, because what we've got is
Yeah.
Hal Jordan and John Stewart buddy cop, and he described it as like a dark mystery, kind of like oh god, what's the name of that show he compared it to?
Oh, was it True Detective?
True Detectives. Did you watch True Detectives?
I didn't.
Okay, so very dark,
Mhm.
very noir, very kind of like Swedish noir. Lots of silent moments, lots of landscapes, all to build this kind of like feeling and tension that there was other things going on. Now, throwing in the Green Lanterns, this actually does very much intrigue me. This is
Yeah.
right up my street, and this is on TV, isn't it?
Yeah, this is going to
Yeah,
be the first like HBO show in this universe that gets premiered. Yeah,
I am
yeah,
interested. Are you?
totally. I think I'm gutted that the Green Lantern movie went the way it did because I remember watching it at the time and enjoying it, but I was very aware of the you know the overzealous like CGI, um, and Ryan Reynolds. I know he's a great actor and he's amazing as Deadpool and stuff. He wasn't Hal Jordan. He wasn't that character.
Yeah.
Um, I actually remember I've got an extended cat film on Blu-ray,
All right.
and it adds about 30 minutes to the film, but it adds it in the sort of the wrong place because
Oh,
in the original film he has like sort of flashbacks to when his father, who was also a pilot, like died. Um, Extended cut. It basically just shows more scenes of Hal as a child with his dad, and it's kind of like
that's a
doesn't
shame.
doesn't add to
No,
the story. Maybe for Hal's character motivation, maybe, but that's not where it needed for.
no. Agreed.
So, yeah, so the fact I've been wanting another Lantern movie for a while, but I think because that film was 2011, I think the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film came out.
Okay.
Um, so it's like, how long until they out? Um, and I've just been waiting for it. And obviously, with all the stuff that's going on with the DCE, which was what it was called, DC Expanded Universe.
Yeah.
That name has now changed or whatever. But yeah, so I was kind of like, oh, when are we going to get a Green Lantern film? But no, I think this is a good way in. Going for like a sort of a buddy cop thing with Jon Stewart, um, and series. It's kind of everything I sort of want in a way in a Green Lantern TV series.
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm completely on board.
Yeah.
I think that TV storytelling is where a lot of really gold stuff is being done right now, and it makes sense to use that. And for us, older, jaded people who want the darkness, and want the gritty, and want the gore, I feel like this is going to be a really interesting way to have the Green Lanterns portrayed, and not necessarily as big, brash superhero situation. A little bit lower than that. They're
Mhm.
law enforcement, aren't they?
Yes.
So let's play to that and see that a bit more and see kind of it unraveling kind of real time almost.
Yes.
And then I am actually quite excited. I'm quite surprised we're going to Paradise Lost. So this
Yes.
is the show that will touch on Wonder Woman's history, but before she was born, and that island of all women and what happens on there. And he described it as Game of Thronesy, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So they'll have it's Themyscira with the Game of Thrones kind of tone. Um, I don't know how I feel about this. I think because I've never been like a massive Wonder Woman fan. Um, so her character is never really kind of interested. Even in like the comic books, she was never a character I sort of gravitated towards. But I think it'll be good for seeing their sort of, the Amazon warriors. I think it'll be good to see their sort of heritage and their culture come to life on screen. And I think it'll give people, I think it'll help people to understand like there's more to Themyscira than just Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and actually, what intrigues me about it is that I don't know anything.
Hmm.
I don't know anything about Themyscira. How do you say it? Did
Themyscira?
Did you see how I sort of subtly try to say that word without being yeah? No, I don't know anything about it, and I didn't know anything about it from the before the Wonder Woman films anyway, and I found it quite interesting all those parts, and the idea of giving it a Game of Thrones vibe, a dark. I like the darkness. I clearly I like this idea of dark and brutal,
Yeah.
living on an island cut off from everybody else, but still dealing with big sort of end of the world type situations. Or will it? Or will it just be more a political who's going to be in charge of the island sort of vibe. I'm quite interested to see how they do it,
Yeah.
and but I think that the world could take it, because think about like how House of Dragon and Game of Thrones and the Lord of the Rings one, which I haven't watched yet, the Rings of Power. This idea, we can have quite a high concept fantasy type island of women warriors fighting over a island. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Same.
It could go the right way, and
Mm.
it could be really interesting and really good. But I don't know enough about it, so I'm open minded about it.
Yeah.
I didn't think we'd get it. This is something I didn't think they would be part of their world going forward.
Yeah. I was a bit surprised at that one as well, if I'm
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. I forgot to actually even mention the things that they still got penned for this year. He did
Mm.
start by saying those, is it 4 or 5 projects this year? So
Yes.
we've
There's
got,
four.
what's coming this year then?
So we got Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Then it's followed by The Flash. They've also said though that The Flash will also be the film that sort of provides the reset.
That has really interested me.
Yeah.
So are we thinking some sort of paradoxy wiping
Yeah.
out of what we currently know?
Yes. Yeah, I
And
think it'll be along those lines of um, maybe a multiverse kind of thing where universes have merged and thus this is the new universe. Um, Pretty sort of it's a very sort of like quick fix way of doing things,
it is.
and I'm okay with that. But then following on from the Flash, then there's Aquaman, Aquaman 2, that's the next one coming out, and then we've got Blue Beetle, and those four films are really the start of the DCU as far as James Gunn and Peter Safran are concerned.
This is the start.
Yeah.
I think it's quite clever. Okay, I will say this. So these 4 films obviously have been in production for a long time, because if
Hmm.
they're being released now. So I'm intrigued, kind of I wonder at what point James Gunn coming on and seeing these 4 films in production already, at what point did he be like, right, how are we going to use this to move us forward in this direction? And how are we going to use this? Are we going to kind of put that as the Elseworlds category and then start again next year? So I'm quite intrigued as to why he chose to use these 4 as the actual start,
Yeah.
using sequels essentially, or the Flash as a continuation of what's already happened.
Hmm.
Quite interesting that.
Yeah, I think I also like this idea as well that like I know with like Marvel films, Kevin Feige's always done things in like phases, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
and they all build to like an Avengers movie. And I think that plan is solid. I would give him that, right? Over the last like 10 years, it's they've never really had like sort of major recasts or
no,
any reboot. Like they've had films that haven't done well, but overall they've kind of nailed it, right?
yeah,
Um, what I kind of admire about what James and Peter are kind of doing is that I like this idea of sort of naming chapters. Like this chapter that they've announced is called Gods and Monsters, and really that there is a kind of a reference to a god or monster almost within like each of them.
yeah.
And I know they've said that there's a sort of all these projects contribute to like this kind of overall kind of arc connected across like live action, animation, film,
Mm.
so that they are all connected. And I'm chuffed that they're aware that like they need to provide this consistency, and I really do hope that it doesn't go tits up for them, to be honest. With them.
There's a lot invested in this.
Yeah,
I think, I mean, that kind of is my kind of final take on it, really, I guess, is that we've had this meandering around for a long time, with some hits, some surprise hits, some flops, some surprise flops, some, you know, casting issues, some, controversial things, some potential criminal activity. I mean, there's been
yes,
so much that's made us meander around DC for a while, and it's been very stagnant. And then to have the balls to put out a plan and
yeah,
say this is what the next 10 years is going to look like. Well, the start, this is the beginning part of information for the next 10-year plan, bearing in mind as well that He mentioned release dates for some of the things, so they've
Yes.
already got released. So that was quite exciting, and also, accepting what has happened already and having the guts to say, this is where we're going. It'll be worth it. We're putting a lot of work into this. Actually, it's quite interesting for him to have to come up to make an announcement anyway.
Yeah.
This is very kind of Steve Jobs, coming out and announcing the new iPhone. This is very reminiscent of that, and to come out and be here, this is what we're going to be doing. I want you to trust me. I want you to have faith in what we've got coming forward because of all the controversies that have happened in the past.
Yeah.
And I want us to acknowledge that those have happened and not necessarily have wiped the slate clean, but to build on what we already have in place and take us in a new direction, a new exciting direction. And he was very, very clearly excited.
Yes.
So I do
Yeah.
have trust in that, I guess, a
Yeah.
certain amount of trust, but it also does genuinely have to deliver because now expectations are going to be high.
Yeah, there's a lot of writing on it, isn't there? And I think a lot of fans are going to be divided in it because, I mean, it's I think it's pretty clear like where you and I stand on it. Um, but there are going to be people I think who are maybe a little bit more skeptical, or maybe just flat out like it's going to be shit. Um, which is fine because
That's
I
the
can,
nature of fandom, isn't it?
yeah, we know that, don't we? From like all the stuff that we've talked about, that there is good and bad
Oh,
in every.
yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
but like in a way, I can't blame fans because if you look at the track record for the DC films over the last decade, I'm not saying every film over the last decade has been crap. It hasn't, but I would definitely say in terms of ratio, I think we may have had more bad films than good films.
I agree.
I think that's like I would say maybe, and I'm being generous here, sort of 70% bad films, 30% good films.
But you're right. It's going to divide people. There are going to be people who aren't going to give a shit. I don't think it's going to be crap because
Yeah.
look at what we've had already. But I think it's back to that word again. It's consistency. What we
Yes.
need is a consistency across the DCU to get us interested again,
Yeah.
excited again.
Yeah. I was just thinking as well, isn't it mad? I think we may have discussed this before, talking about the like Batman as a character, like at the moment, as far as the films are concerned, whether it's DC or Elseworlds or whatever, there's three Batmen on the go at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Robert Pattinson, who's smashing it in the Batman films with Matt
Mm.
Reeves.
Mm.
Uh, then you've got Ben Affleck, who's I feel like Ben Affleck is like sort of waiting in a queue, sort of going like, "Oh, I will, I will
Yeah.
get my film."
Please take a ticket and wait at the back of the back. Sit
Yeah,
down for a minute. Wait till you hear your name called.
yeah. I feel like he's like Beetlejuice, like his ticket is like 1 million something,
That is
and like,
exactly what's happening. That is
and he's
exactly
sat
what's
next to
happening.
Robert Pattinson, who's like number two, like, "Oh, I'm next." Um,
I know. I feel sorry for Ben Affleck.
but coincidentally mentioned in Beetlejuice there, you've also got Michael Keaton coming back as Batman, because he's going to be appearing in the Flash movie, isn't he?
He is.
With Affleck. I personally think it's going to be a one and done. I don't see Keaton helming like another solo Batman movie after all these
You
years.
say this right, but they have now got this momentum
Mm.
and this plan, and he's just come back and delivered two performances really because he was in Batgirl. What was it, Batgirl? That we didn't get
Oh,
to see. Was he
that's
in
right.
that?
Yes,
He was
I
in
think
that, but we didn't get to see it, right?
I
So
believe so.
maybe what he wanted to achieve for his character in that film, he didn't get to.
Mm.
So maybe he wants to achieve something else again. He doesn't want to be screwed over again, how his film pulled. I mean, at the end of the day, he got paid no matter what, right? But
Yeah,
it's still, for him, he's such a good actor. He's one of my favorites.
same.
Such a good actor. And I just think after all these years, bringing what he's got to Batman again, like I know I'm going to want to see more after the Flash,
Yeah,
but I fear that actually the wiping clean of that universe and moving on in that direction because of the Flash is probably going to negate that happening.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I just think if ever we see him again, we'll probably see him alongside, the modern heroes and the modern cast. I don't ever see, like when we had like Tim Burton's Batman film back in '89 and
Yeah,
'92.
yeah.
I don't think we'll ever see Keaton doing that again on his own. I think if they do it, it'll be with like a sort of an all-star cast. I think he'd have more of a kind of a mentor kind of role.
Yeah, possibly. You're probably right there. You're probably right. It's just not what I want. Stu, I want
No,
more. Oh, okay. So final thoughts. Let's do final thoughts.
I'm excited. I really am. I think it's in a way it's gutting that it's sort of like it's taken it this long for them to have this kind of plan. Um, but at the same time, I suppose all the stuff that came before that didn't do very well, the recasts, the box office flops. I think it took that for them to have to get their arse in gear and create the DCU.
Yeah,
So I mean, at least something kind of positive has come out of it. I do know they've said as well that because I was getting a little bit worried, I don't know about you, but when they've started saying like, "Oh, you got all these films now with DC," some of them have just been like flat out written off. Obviously, like Cavill's gone. It looks as though Wonder Woman is gone, but or at least that there's no plan for any sequels because I know Wonder Woman 84 didn't do very well.
yeah,
So it left me wondering like who's actually safe, especially with the whole the Batgirl movie. They
yeah,
just flat out just wiped that off the face of the earth.
yeah,
Well, for me, considering everything that they've announced so far, overall, I'm genuinely happy. I'm excited, and yeah, I can't wait to see what they deliver over the next 8 to 10 years. But obviously, we don't have to wait that long because 2025 is when it's going to kick off, apparently. So
yeah.
yeah, I can't wait for it.
My final thought is that I'm genuinely excited about this more than I'm excited about what's happening with Marvel.
Wow.
I know, and that has surprised me because unfortunately for me, Marvel's consistency, because they've got the consistency, it isn't creating like peaks for me anymore.
Right.
I need Marvel now to give me a peak. I
Yes.
need an erection from Marvel. A metaphorical erection from Marvel. You know what I'm saying? Because they've been consistently good. And each film is good, but now I'm not even going to the cinema to see them. I'm waiting for Disney Plus and then being
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that was good. Oh yeah, that was good. Oh yeah, that was good. But it's not giving me that kind of, I need more. And DC, I think, has now given me that.
Right.
There's a semi happening for DC. That's all I'm saying.
Brilliant. So you just need Kang to erect your wang.
I feel like we need to end on that note because I don't think there's any topping that.
Clearly not.
Okay, well, thank you for listening to this really long flashcast with me and Stewart on What's Your Fandom about James Gunn's announcement for the future of DC. You can, of course, follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We're at Fandom Pods. Thank you for listening. Say goodbye, Stu,
Goodbye.
and we'll catch you in the next episode.